Okay, evening everybody, or good morning wherever you are. Welcome to the first ever after show live. Is this going to work? Are we prepared? Well, I don't know about that. It's been a bit last minute, but we thought it was worth a go. I mean, obviously Israel, Tiberias, the PWA first event we've had happen for 18 months. It deserves a bit of a summary. We've had the fin versus foil, and I'm going to be joined by Maciek, Rutkowski, I hope. Although I've just been speaking to him, and his internet isn't the best. I won't lie, isn't the best. So let's see. I think firstly, just to let some people get in here, because I know we are live, there'll be people watching this back. I'm just going to replay the final video from, just to set the mood, so you can remember the event, feel the rhythm, and let me know if you can hear me, let me know if it's working. So I'll play that video and then I'll be back with Maciek. We're going to discuss everything. We're going to talk about Albeau. Yes, controversial stuff there. We're going to talk about crash. We're going to talk about unforced errors. And obviously, we're going to take in questions from you guys at home. This is mainly going to be on YouTube. We have streamed it to Facebook as well. I don't know why. I'm just testing out all this live stuff because I plan to do a bit more in the future when I've sorted the studio out here. It's not ready yet. Okay, so without further ado, let's watch the highlights. Let's see if this works. Welcome to the final day of competition here in Israel for the Tiberias PWA World Cup. This will be the last chance to move yourself up the rankings and secure the podium places.
Give me all of your lies, 'cause you're my demon in disguise. I learned to love the cage you keep me in, but the walls keep closing in, and I don't wanna die. Perfect storm, a beautiful catastrophe.
In the women's foil, we were set for a big upset. Helle Oppendal from Norway could steal the victory if she got a good result in the final. The problem is she didn't make the final. Sarah Keita won the final, just pipping Alice Reed for her first victory. But the overall standing stayed the same. Mortafon won it. Helle Oppendal, still a great result, in second, and Blanca Albeau in third. In the women's slalom, it was Sarah Keita's to lose, but the second and third places, that was going to come down to the wire, with just 0.3 separating Marion Mortafon and Delphine Cousin-Kestel. But the problem was Delphine Cousin-Kestel and Marion Mortafon sailed each other over the line, so it didn't make any difference to the overall. In the end, with Sarah Keita taking the win, but we have to have a mention for Tuesday, nearly bagging her first win, but being overtaken on the line by literally 50 cm.
Storm, a beautiful catastrophe.
In the men's slalom, with first place already wrapped up with Nicholas Goya's dominant display, it was all about the podium places. There was a couple of guys that could make it. The first mistake, though, was from Matteo Iachino. He gambled on the fin and he didn't qualify. Then it was left to Maciek Rutkowski, Enrico Marotti, William Hubert and Pierre Mortafon. But Pierre Mortafon was too strong in the final, bagging another win, making it back-to-back bullets, but this time on the foil. Him securing second place for the competition. Third place went to William Hubert. A close run thing with him and Maciek, but in the end, William's consistency was just too much.
I learned to love the cage you keep me in, but the walls keep closing in, and I don't wanna die.
So that's it here in Israel. We are finished. What a 5 days it has been. Wind every day, 7 eliminations in the men, 7 in the women, and 4 in the foil. Are we coming back next year? You betcha.
A perfect storm, a beautiful catastrophe.
Okay, so there you go. That sets the scene. Anyone who tuned into the live will have known how good that event was to watch. But what was it like to compete in it? Well, we have a pretty solid competitor, finished fourth. Actually did really well fighting it out for that fourth place on the last day. Probably could have been higher, but we're going to hear from him. Let's bring him in. Our podcast, it's actually Wednesday. It's meant to be podcast day. That's why we're doing this. We haven't got a podcast. I'll bring him in. Let's see him. Maciek Rutkowski. Here he is. Can you hear me? No. Okay, so we can't hear Maciek at the moment. That is probably going to be an absolute disaster. Can anyone hear him?
1, 2, 1, 2. You should be able to hear me.
Well, brilliant. Well, that's working great. So the first live after show and our special guest, who's basically got all the knowledge and the insight. I can't actually hear him. If you guys can hear him at home, hit us up on the comments. We have got comments. We can put stuff on. There you go. Maciek's got 28 kilobytes. He actually is in Croatia because obviously there's not a 5-star PWA event there. There's going to be the next event, though. It won't be a full counted event and probably won't count for Maciek. But the boys are there supporting it. You know, not many events happening, but it looks like this internet's going to be a disaster. So this live stream might be cut a little bit short. I might be able to wing it a little bit on my own, but to be honest, this basically evolves around Maciek and his inside knowledge, and that's what I wanted to bring to you guys at home. So you know what I mean? That's the problem with live. We're going to give it another go. Maciek, can you hear me? So it looks like you just got me. Okay, well, that's how it goes. Like I said, he is fighting with internet battles. We thought it was all sorted, and literally, like all good live streams, 2 minutes before we went on, he started cracking up. What are we going to talk about then? Why we've got him here? Obviously, if you tuned into the show, there was some massive talking points. Obviously, the biggest one of the week was Finn versus Foyle. And at the end of the week, you kind of left thinking, well, it's obvious, isn't it, Ben? The Foyle's going to win. But there was only really, you know, one guy who was just dominating everything, Nico Goya. I have got some clips lined up, but it's pretty difficult to do it on my own without Maciek here. But he obviously dominated. But then when you speak to those guys, well, from what I got, like I said, this is what we wanted to ask Maciek. I'm going to try and add him in again on a different stream, see if he's found a better one. Are you there, mate?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very badly.
Really? No.
No, I can't hear you. Hello?
Jesus Christ. Okay,
So there we go. This is going really well. This is great. But this is better than the podcast. You've got to say, is this better than the podcast? I think I might just have to go to the questions. But to give you a bit of an idea, what we did have planned, we did have. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about firstly the biggest talking point of the week. Now, if you tuned in, we're going to forget about Finn and Foyle for now. We're going to talk about Antoine Albeau, 25 times world champion. I saw him rattle this week. I've never seen him lose his cool, but I tell you what, this moment might sum it up. Let's see if we can bring it in. Let's see if I've actually got it right tuned in. Let's have a look. Moment. Where is Albeau? Where is Albeau? Can anyone see him? It's Maciek Rutkowski round in first place. Then we've got Nicholas Goya. Oh, there's Albeau. Oh dear. I'm having a feeling he's not going to be doing well in this race. So Albeau is out by the looks of it. Oh, what a disaster for Antoine Albeau fans. Oh no, but Nicholas Goya looking good. Yes. Do you remember that moment? We were looking for Albeau. We'd started the race, couldn't find him anywhere, and then he pops up at the first mark going the other way. Well, I was just commentating. That was just the first run round. It was kind of a bit of a shock. And then when we watched the replay, I'll give you the replay for you now. So this was coming into the mark, obviously. Whoa. It all switched around, and that was Antoine Albeau. Oh, was that conscious? I mean, that was scary. I didn't quite notice that when I was commentating, but Antoine Albeau was right in the firing line there. Whew. Sure, that was... He obviously is not very happy. I mean, Antoine is very good at keeping himself in check, but I guess he was trying to get to the start line, but obviously pretty late. Yeah, obviously this was him outside the judges' tent. I was actually in the commentary booth at this point, and there was a hell of a French conversation, let's say, going on. Maciek was actually one of the guys involved in that first incident, and he ended up not qualifying. He ended up protesting the race, and essentially it got thrown out, and they restarted it. And Albeau, for people who don't know, actually ended up getting a DND, which a DND is a disqualification not discardable. So you have to count a last place for the whole round, which is a disaster. You know, not many races happening this year. It was a disaster. And that pretty much was until the end. And then right on the last day, he popped up in 5th place overall. And everyone's like, what the hell happened then? And it turns out he'd protested the race committee to the management board, and the management board had sided with him and said, COVID year, not many events happening. It's a bit too harsh because it ruins the whole year, and reinstated him with a disqualification. And that bumped him up to 5th place, went ahead of Marotti, went ahead of Giacchino. It was a massive talking point and kind of out of the blue. What do you think of that? What do you guys think at home? DND, was it too harsh? Should it have been redone? I'll be interested to know what you thought. I know we'll get Maciek Rutkowski's thoughts. Let's add him in. Maciek.
How about now? Please
That's
tell me you hear me.
I can hear you now.
Yes, finally. So yeah, the whole Antoine situation, or are we talking DND is too harsh or not? This is very hard to answer.
That is the difference. We've got that is rubbish. I don't know if he's talking about the stream or the decision. You never know. Fair decision, apparently. Bat diver. What? Fair decision to rescindicate it, to give him a disqualification. It does make it interesting for the overalls, for the neutral, let's say.
The thing is, they had to disqualify him if they wanted to rerun the heat. Because if you rerun the heat without disqualifying him, he actually gets what he wants, right? So he gets a free resale kind of, even though he was late to the heat. So you got to disqualify him. Whether a DND is too harsh or not, yeah, this is very hard. I don't know what the rules are exactly. I have a feeling it's a little bit of a, of a case-by-case type thing. And yeah, in that case, what I don't like is going back and changing it. Once you made the decision, stick to it, and I don't think COVID year or non-COVID year should affect this, but I think this decision might have been affected, like emotionally, let's say, because Antoine was there screaming, and then I was there on the other side kind of demanding a resale because I got totally screwed. So, there was a little bit of emotions, and maybe they decided this DND was an emotional decision or whatever by one of the judges. And yeah, this is very hard for me to
Are you sitting on the fence then, mate? You feel like that's going to hurt if you sit on that fence any longer? Too harsh or not?
Well, now I can hardly hear you, my friend. So that doesn't make it any easier.
I said, was the DND too harsh?
And I just gave you a 20-minute explanation of that. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You're sitting on the fence. The guys at home want to hear some, what do you think, genuinely?
Well, genuinely,
if you were in the jury,
I was like, okay, you told me one guy's event just got fucked, and that's like, yeah, it's gonna be, that's obviously a top, one of the fastest sailors. So yeah, it helps for sure, but at the same time, you don't want to. I'm an emotional guy, and I wouldn't want to get the guy got a little bit carried away or whatever, and he gets slapped. Yeah. I'm not gonna give you a definitive thing on here.
Okay, it's fair enough. I have to say, for me, it makes as a neutral, I quite like it that he's back in the race because, there was a few questions people have been asking. He's nearly 50. Yeah. When's he going to retire? Is he, is he done? Is Antoine Albeau fading? That was the comment. That was the thing. Is he fading? You were there. You were racing with him. He ended up 5th. So I'm guessing you're going to say no, but he isn't in the top 3. But is that because this event was different?
It's again so hard to say because I'm improving, and whether he is staying the same or decreasing, I would like to say he's staying the same and we are just improving, So now he needs to kind of step it up again. So now he would just have to step it up again. But when you're 49, that's probably hard to do. And I know from Tenerife that he couldn't sail the hours that we sail, and he can't, and now it's a new discipline, new format and all that.
Okay, well, it seems like we have a few issues with Maciek. So we're going to go to, I think we're going to go to the questions because Nico Preen, the biggest YouTube channel. Yeah, Windsurfing YouTube. It hurts me saying that, but he has got biggest YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure now. He's on there. He says with a DND, he would have gotten around 9th or 10th. So a loss of 4 to 5 positions for such an action, I find fair. Now with the DND taken away, not much has changed for him, really. I would agree. And that's kind of, when I was commentating, that's what I was thinking. You're thinking, well, it would have been his discard anyway. He's missed the start. So a disqualification isn't really a penalty. Would I say that with Antoine sitting right next to me? Maybe not. I've got a fly. It keeps landing on those. Is this good for live stream? But it's true. And actually, interesting, I didn't work out the points. So for fair play to Nico for working out the points. If he'd have finished 9th or 10th after doing something that, is dangerous sailing, you saw the video. I mean, it's very interesting. We're going to try and get Maciek back again. This could be an ongoing thing. Maciek, are you there, mate?
I'm here. I like the hot take from Nico, like taking a stand that I didn't have the balls to. So
I thought the same thing. It's good. That's what we want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, like I think there needs to be some sort of a limit of things you can do, but the problem is that there's so many different situations that it's hard to write all the rules, like to prevent all sorts of different situations. What if the guy is at the mark? What if he jumps onto the mark and hugs it and just stays there? This situation happened like 20 years ago or something. So
that was Podium, yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's there's no precedent. So it's very hard to say. Like it's very hard to compare to anything really.
Well, I just sent Nico an invitation. Maybe we can join him in. Maybe we can have a 3-way. That sounds wrong, but it's interesting. Yes. I mean, when you see the video, obviously you were racing at the time. Did your mind change when you saw the video?
No, totally not. That's the thing. I went to the judges and said, like, look, guys, he was fully in my way. And from their angle, they said, no, he was not. I'm like, guys, I had to go so wide. So then I asked Frankie, who is the protest judge, to look at it, and he said, yeah, from the live stream, from the drone angle, you can clearly see that he was totally in the way. And he was, I lost 3 places. I went from 1st to 4th because I had to go like mega wide, which the rest of the event, the other heats, I didn't. If you watched, I actually managed to jibe that mark quite tight, and and it's really crucial to jibe that mark tight and come out on the inside with good speed and good power, So So it was funny because they said, he didn't affect, and then they looked at the live stream and he was like, sorry, Maciek, he really did affect you, you know.
Okay, well, we do have a special guest. It wasn't planned, but the way this system works, it's usually easy. But look at that bloke there. Anybody want to hazard a guess? Yes, it's Nico.
Good to be on with you guys.
Himself. How we doing?
Pretty good.
Okay, so how about you give us your take on the Albeau thing? I think you've got quite a strong stance. I like it.
Yeah, I think he really changed the outcome of the race with Maciek. At first, I didn't think so, but when I watched it back, it was quite obvious to me. So for sure, it had to be resailed, and for sure, he messed up. People's racing. Some people advanced, and because of him, like the whole outcome changed. So it has to be punished for sure, because we don't want to see that again. And if there's no real punishment, so I don't know, why wouldn't you do it again?
It's a good point. What's going through his head at that point, though? Did he lose it?
Yeah, it's quite obviously deliberate. So yeah, he kind of got emotional, and he obviously probably knew in the back of his head that this means a lot, because they're not going to be races this year. So if he misses that one, it can have a big effect on the result,
Yeah, at the same time now for the
and this is what I've seen from Antoine more and more, that back in the day he would just say, fuck it, it's one race, and probably go back and win the rest of them, whereas now it's the harder it gets for him to to bring good results. Then it's like every race matters more, so then he gets more hung up on those things and more emotional. He was really emotional. I haven't really seen him like this, and I've raced probably 10 years now, so it was quite interesting to see, and quite strange at the same time, because you see the guy dominating always and not being bothered by anything, and now he's almost like one of us, or even more emotional, so yeah. It's
there is a few. I was going to say there's a few people just tuning in, don't know the situation. Basically, everyone they've had a heat, they've qualified for the next one. He asked, "Can I go in and change the gear?" Yes, was as far as I know was yes. Okay, you can. He went in. He took too long. It was told a few times, you got to go. And this is what I'm hearing from the judges. He had some water, took a bit longer. He's like, you got to go. They're going to start soon. And that was the side I heard of it. Maciek, you can maybe fill me in, because you came in, changed your foil, but he went back out on a thin, which obviously to get back up to the start line is a lot slower than the foil in those conditions. Is that pretty much sums it up? Pretty much, yeah.
You just on the foil you just plane straight off the beach, and then with the fin it takes you probably until he couldn't plane until the first mark, so yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of support either way, like I say, from a neutral standpoint, for me, I like it. He's still in the mix, because I think this year he's going to be pushed all the way anyway. And if I was the guy, I'm not the guy that's going to win this year, I'd want Antoine to be in the mix without being like, oh yeah, but Antoine had that DND at the beginning of the year. There's like some sort of excuse, and it takes away a bit of a victory. I'd like all the players in the game and beat them fair and square. I'm not the players, so I'm speaking from the outside, but that's how I kind of feel. Especially
if I beat him at the end of the year, I can say the same. But then if he beats me, I will be like, fuck.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Okay. So other talking points, what have we got? We did do a little bit of prep for this. I won't lie. There's not a lot of prep. The big question, just because we've got Nico here as well now, is we asked it, fin or foil? Did we have a conclusive answer? You two were racing out there. What's your feeling after that event? Was the event just extreme? Will we see that then sort of set the way for the future? What's your thinking?
I think what we forgot after 18 months of not racing is that you want to minimize the risk as much as possible. And it turned out that this place to go fin is super risky because you can get a hole like you saw with Matteo, or like you saw with Cyril a few times, like you saw with Daldorf, like you saw with a lot of different guys, you know. So I think this is what we forgot. We kind of trained and we saw the correct range. That, you know, when you're powered with 8.4, you're faster on the fin, or I am faster than I am on the foil. I'm not faster than probably Nico or someone is. You know what I mean? So also we didn't see somebody that good. You know what I mean? We traded in Tenerife. There was like 3 world champions there. Enrico was there. I was there. Really good guys. But in those particular conditions, nobody really went that great on the foil in rolling swell and stuff. Here, flat water, super gusty. You avoid the risk. So you take the foil, and if everybody takes the foil, then you're kind of safe. You know what I mean? Because if like 4 guys would take the fin and 4 guys would take the foil, then it's like a coin flip whether the gust is gonna hold or not. But once it's like, you know, once there's one guy on the fin, he either wins it or comes last. So yeah, it's tricky tricky to really excuse taking the fin. You know what I mean? You end up like only in perfect, like once it was like there was 2 rounds that were really 7-7, you know what I mean? 7-7 medium board, and then you would take the fin. But still, William was and Nico were still on the Nico Goyard were still on the foil. And you were one of the guys that changed the latest, Nico. So tell us your perspective a bit.
Yeah, I agree a lot with you, Maciek. It's about minimizing the risk, and it also raises a lot of questions for the race direction. What do you do if there are, I don't know, 2 guys on the foil, and then all the others on the fin get stuck? Do they now have to finish the race half planing, half not planing? What kind of a race is that? Like, people don't want to see that, and it's not really fair. And then also I had one heat that really triggered me to stay on the foil longer, where literally everybody was on the fin, and we were standing forever, and they just wouldn't cancel it. So I kind of lost a bit of trust into the race direction, and that's why I ended up staying on the foil for as long as I can, you know.
I mean, that's the biggest question I had, exactly. When you, like you say, you got half and half, and all the foilers are going. Surely it's just, well, you made the wrong decision. Like, it's like taking too small a sail. You took the wrong equipment for that race.
Yeah. So if those are the rules,
you can't stop the race.
Rules, you're
like,
forcing everybody
let's put it
on foils.
Can I just say, let's put it into perspective for people who, you know, not windsurfing. Formula One, you take the wrong tires. They don't go, oh, these guys are slipping all over the place in their slicks. They just go, you bad call, dude. They probably don't say that, but you know, you know what I mean?
Well, they kind of do. Like when Verstappen's tire exploded in Baku, they red flagged the race because they say like, we need make sure everybody is safe with the tires. You know what I mean?
But that's a safety issue, is it?
Yeah. So maybe, okay. Maybe that's a different story. But I get your point, and I think it came to that. And now we have to adjust. The only 2 people that were ready for it is pretty much like Nico Goyard and William, and they finished 1st and 3rd. So so it's up to us to catch up, you know, and with this high wind foiling. I mean, wind. It's not gusty. It's just about the, you know, huge difference between the gust and the low.
Yeah, I mean, so you've gone away from this event. Are you 2 now going, okay, I need a smaller wing, I need to go train this? Is that it? Is that like focus now? But then the problem is, for people at home that don't know, you cannot turn up to the next competition with a small wing on your front. You've already registered your equipment for the year, and that's a talking point, I think, in itself. Is, you know, if you have already registered your equipment, this is what I don't like about it. With a sport that's moving so fast, you're all done for the year. If Nico turns up and it's these conditions, he's just going to smash you all.
Yeah, and
in the nicest possible
reality
way.
right now. And after the first day, I can tell you straight away that my first call was Challenger Sales, the designer, Claudio. And I was like, Claudio, ciao, I need a 7.0 and a 6.0 for next year. Let's start to work now. And then the second call was Exploder foils, and you know, telling the guys that let's start designing a 450 wing, you know, a 450 front wing. So that's it. There was a question for me, like, because I was stuck on an 8 meter, which I think looked really hilarious sometimes, because like Nico, for example, was on a 5.8 or a 6.6, Nico Prin, on his slalom sail, and whether I would not put my slalom sail. Why? First of all, because the 8 meter was working and I could get like top 3 results, so you don't really change what works. And second of all, because the trim, you need to, for me at least, I would need to retrim my 6.2 and 7.0 totally, the slalom sails, to make them work on a foil. So maybe Nico can tell me how he did that in the middle of the event, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, I think we're just quite lucky with New Pride that the sails work both on the fin and on the foil quite well. I mean, if you have a dedicated foil sail, for sure it's better. But yeah, it's just the sail works. And you saw Enrico also switching from the 8.0 foil sail to using the 6.6 slalom sail later on. And he did quite well. So I think it's just that. It depends how is the slalom sail, you know? Some slalom sails work really well on the foil, some less. But for sure, if you want to catch up with guys like Nico Goya, you need a dedicated foil sail. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and you know, like I talked to Pierre, and he told me, I'm like, Pierre, why are you on the 6.2 slalom sail and not on the 6.8 foil sail? And he told me, like, yeah, I guess your sails are totally different, because he said he couldn't hold his 6.8 in the gusts, and I could hold my 8 meter in the gusts. I just couldn't go any faster because there's just too much drag on such a big sail. You know what I mean? So I think there's, except for the size, there is, like Nico just mentioned, there's characteristics for a sail. You know, there's how it pulls, the aspect ratio, all these things. They change how the sail feels totally, and sometimes you can design a sail that is a 6.0 and is super powerful, and you would get overpowered in 15 knots, and sometimes you can have an 8 meter that you can hold until 25. So it's kind of you need to judge it very individually.
Yeah. Question: is there a requirement for foils to be production, Mr. Carolan, our sound man?
Yeah.
He listens to the podcast. Big thanks to Mark.
Yeah, huge shout out to Mark for his work. They need to be registered. I mean, they don't need to be production, because it's very hard to, well, how it is with boards and with sails, there is minimum quantities to register a board. You basically need to produce, I don't remember how many pieces, but it's not a huge amount, but PWA can go ask the factory and check if these amount of pieces were actually produced. With foils, you don't need to produce the amount of pieces, but you need to go through the registration process, which is basically registering, you know, the outline, the profile, all the characteristics of the wing, all the tech specs that say you need to hand over to PWA, and then they can check if what you registered you're actually using, or if you're pulling a dirty trick and you actually upgrade it from contest to contest.
Yeah. So I'm just looking through a few of the comments as you were chatting then. A lot of people saying this, that foils and fins are different. There should be separate categories. I mean, it's an interesting one because actually this event, we did have separate categories, but for the women. So the women were sailing a slalom category and with a fin, I should say, fin slalom category and a foil slalom category. And there was talk at the end, when are they joining together? That was actually going to be one of our topics tonight. But also people kind of suggesting that you guys should separate. You guys are out there racing. Give us your views, I'd say.
I totally don't agree with that. I totally do not agree with that, because the spirit of progression, the spirit of development, the spirit of World Cup is let the fastest thing win. You know what I mean? And I don't really understand why people get so stuck on making rest in peace Finn memes and making foil is the future memes and all that, when it's just about like, it doesn't really matter if it's fin or foil, whatever. Let the fastest man win. You know, whatever his gear is. Okay, there has to be some limitations, so you don't come with a freaking engine or something. But generally, the spirit of of progression and moving the sport forward is to open it as much as we can within the limits of our industry. That's my take. Hot take.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. As liberal as possible, let the fastest man win. And I mean, it's super fun. It's exciting. Like you don't know what you're gonna take. It's something new. It's different. So I couldn't agree more with Maciek. So leave it open. We'll see what wins.
I was going to say, to be honest, like me being the commentator watching the races, some of the best races were the fin versus foil. Like, Matteo Iachino versus Nico. It could have gone either way. Obviously, it needed that gust on the last reach, but they were still close either way. And then we also had, I think, Mortafon, and we saw that the fin is friggin' competitive, and they were probably the worst conditions you could have had to give the advantage, let's say, to Nico Goya. I don't think there could have been a better situation for him. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me.
No, it was the perfect storm, especially that first day when, you haven't been racing for 18 months and then this guy comes and it's just totally perfect for him. So I get all the excitement online and I get all these things, but you have to look at the situation a little bit more as a whole, and see that, it's as gusty as it gets. I mean, I don't know how many rounds we would have done if we were with the old format with only fins. Maybe 2, maybe.
But would you have sailed further out to sea? We just wouldn't have been able to stream it, I guess.
Yeah, so then it sucks, So this new format just allows us to be close to the beach and to race in conditions which before were not suitable. And yeah, it just so happens that it favored one guy very heavily, but this guy, he deserves it. He trained, he put the time. He was the only one prepared with all this gear in those conditions, and yes, good on him. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that this show should be like we should be fighting Nico. We shouldn't be agreeing with each other all the time. So. Let's try to give
for me. That's what I think. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear what you guys on the race course think. They're probably fed up of hearing what I think, because I've got a different view to maybe you guys sometimes. From a viewer neutral perspective, I want to see action. I want to see crashes as long as no one gets injured, which we did see a few injuries and a few big crashes. Which could have gone either way. I mean, that's another talking point about the danger of this class. It just depends where we want to go with this. I mean, it's a massive, there's so much to talk about from this event, from my perspective. I'm just going to have a look through the comments why Nico goes against you, whatever you said.
I mean, I like the control danger. It's dangerous, but you can control it in some way. How tight you want to go, or how close you want to go to the others. Are you going to go around wide, And I think we also have to think a little bit about where are we, like, what are the other possible events this year, And then there's like Sylt and Korea maybe. And again, Korea is one of those places that you can get easily stuck on the first drive, and that's really where we see the foil advantage. So I have a feeling that if we go to Korea for the tour this year, we might get similar conditions and similar results.
Yeah, and that exactly. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the comment there, he's worried it won't translate to amateur racing, will become too expensive. I mean, Nico, you're probably a good person to answer that. You are the new assistant brand manager, or I don't know your official title of Starboard. What's the theory there? How do the amateur racers afford it? I mean, I guess IQ foil would be one way of doing it, and it's not maybe the same. But slalom isn't going away with a fin, is it? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. At an amateur level,
we're actually talking. We can limit the amount of gear because the foil has such huge range that you actually need less gear, not more. So yeah, you need to buy the foil, which is quite expensive at the moment. Like probably need to spend $2,000 on a foil. But these things are amazing. They have great resale value, and yeah, I don't think much is going to change. I mean, to be competitive on the World Cup level, you need the freaking 20-30 fins or whatever, and now you need 2 foils. It's kind of the same amount of money, if you're buying that stuff. And on an amateur level, obviously it's less, and yeah, it hurts to spend $2,000. I know, because I bought a lot of the foils from different brands just to have an idea of what they're doing, and yeah, it hurts, but then you resell it quite well. So I think it's not too bad for amateur racing.
I just pulled up a shot from the women's fleet. This was probably one of the scarier moments as the rig kind of bounced around. I mean, the reason is because the board's still flying on the foil when it went down. So you get this boomerang kind of effect that nearly took out the fleet. I mean, she did well, the local girl, to sail through that. I mean, obviously, this isn't the most dangerous one we've seen. We've seen other ones where people have just gone down in front of each other. Nico, I think, didn't you nearly get hit? I saw a picture of you, which looked
Jordy.
Pretty scary.
Yeah. I kind of messed up his race there. Yeah. Does it really look scary? It didn't feel scary at all to me. Like I never felt in danger. And there's an argument, like, is it really more dangerous? And now more and more I come to the conclusion that it might not be, because yes, your reaction time is longer, like coming down from the foil or changing directions, but also you see a lot sooner that whoever's in front of you is about to crash, and it takes them a while to crash. Like the crash with the fin goes much faster, so on the foil it takes a little longer. And then also the foil really spreads out the jibe much more, so you have a much bigger range to jibe. You can go higher, you can go wider, much wider than the fin, and that really spreads out the jibes in the first mark a bit. So I feel like we're probably less tight and maybe even less dangerous than before.
Okay, that's
now you can argue with Maciek. Maybe something we don't agree.
Fuck, I don't know. Like I don't necessarily agree that it's safer. Maybe it is a little bit more dangerous. I would not like to catapult in front of Antoine Albeau coming 30 knots with a foil. That's for sure. But at the same time, there is some sort of level of trust, and with the fins, we are sometimes racing in Fuerte, like I don't know, centimeters. There's a couple of jibes. I have a couple of jibes saved on my computer that are like, either almost contact or contact, and if something goes wrong there, you probably fall under the fin as well. So Arnon is in the house. The big organizer of the thing, of the whole contest, so we should definitely thank him. But so I don't necessarily think it's less dangerous, like Nico says, but What I do think is that we shouldn't really talk about it. We should try to, or we shouldn't talk about it in a sense that we have to take it out because it's dangerous. We might want to introduce some Kevlar wetsuits or whatever, but yeah, as somebody says, talk with Pierre about the crash with Tati. You know, that was the most dangerous situation I've seen in my days. So, and that was on fins. So yeah, foils are definitely dangerous, but I don't see like MotoGP guys or Formula One guys slowing down or not using the fastest cars because they're dangerous. They just try to improve safety, you know. And I think this is the way we should go. Try to improve the wetsuits, put some Kevlar in there, impact wetsuits, things like that, you know, that will improve safety rather than saying, it's dangerous, we shouldn't foil.
And now thanks to the foil, we finally have helmets and impact vests, which we never had, and it was kind of long overdue. Guys, my battery is about to die. I'm gonna tune out. It was really fun. Maybe I'll go on my laptop and watch you guys.
Cheers, dude. Thanks for joining. There we go. Nico Preen joining in. Interesting conversation for me. Arnon
Let's bring Arnon. Let's bring Arnon.
Where is he? It's more tricky for me. Let me see if I can bring him in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I might have to get you to send it to him. I haven't got him.
Okay, I'll send him the link. You just keep doing your thing.
So going on before, actually, Arnon did he had a little bit of a coming together, I think, actually, maybe with his teammate, which is not always the best thing. But interestingly, the shot, actually, the video I put on there is a shot of Enrico Marotti. Now, we were going to talk about Enrico for another reason, really, because his results during the week, man, everything about his sailing looked like a top three, but he was making unforced errors. And I think that comes into this kind of, is it more dangerous? Because, I mean, this is on a reach and he literally just explodes. It looks like on the stream, almost out of nowhere. So for me, in slalom, I rarely see people just explode out of nowhere. Whereas on the foil, you can explode out of nowhere. So with that said, surely that has to be a bit of a problem. I mean, that's what I would think anyway, just from watching. I remember watching before one of the women's heats or something. It got really windy. They're on the foil, on big foils. And you just thought, if it's that gusty, there can be an explosion. Whereas on slalom, it very rarely happens.
Yeah, but this is that bad. I think that's a good thing that the race is exciting until the end. I mean, I one of the times I lost my podium was I just ate shit like 50 meters before the finish line.
Yeah,
and you know, it's like you say with Enrico, he pushes hard, he pushes all the way, he's on the edge of control a lot of the time, and it happens. And I don't think that's necessarily dangerous or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think that's what, yeah, that's kind of my idea here, that it's actually good because the race is exciting. And how many times did we have a procession of a heat in foiling? Not so many, right? And if you remember, 9-4, 8-6 slalom finals or semifinals or first rounds, it was just like follow the leader, jibe tight, make sure you have wind in your sail. Not much going on, you know. Here, every heat, I mean, I saw guys doing like live reactions, like Casper and James, the guys that do, I think it's called Sometimes We Jibe, YouTube. They did like a live reaction of a loser final, you know. Can you remember like anybody doing something about a loser final before? You know what I mean? Yeah. And just because there was crashes, there was things going on, there was people changing places, and I think it's actually good. We are early in that development, so probably that's why we don't feel as comfortable, and that's why you see some guys crash just on their own.
And, I mean, like I said, neutral commentary, amazing. Like, but I do see it's just a matter of time. That's just my general feeling. I'm not out there. You guys are out there. So, you know, you've probably got a better feeling of it from me. If you guys feel safe, I feel safe already, you know. But in the commentary booth, I'm like on the edge thinking something could explode at any point, which makes it exciting. It really does. But I still think it makes it more extreme. You know, and why shouldn't a sport be extreme? The only thing I will say is in Formula One and a lot of the stuff that people compare it to MotoGP, they're getting paid a lot more money. So when it does go wrong, they're not so, you know, they're well looked after, let's say.
Yeah, that makes it even more extreme, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Arnon is coming on, or I don't know.
No, that's okay. Like I said, we weren't really planned.
But just another quick shout out to Arnon Dagan, because he was the one with the vision to bring a PWA to Israel, and this year we needed it so bad, and they came through, and that's amazing. So yeah, so thank you, Shalocha Arnon, as they say.
Shalocha. It's definitely kicked off the year. I mean, it's about time. We've waited 18 months for that event. Anyone who tuned into the live will have known the live stream definitely went up a notch, I have to say. Adam Sims and the boys and staff did a really, really good job once the internet was all sorted. Impressive. Doug Reed, are the unforced errors due to a lack of experience? We're obviously talking at the moment. I will say you had few unforced errors, I will say. Enrico Marotti, I pull out you two because you had the best chances for a podium for me. You know, I look at your races. I think you were the only guy in the fleet not to be in every final. You didn't ever not make the final, which is a massive achievement, really. And then and I will say Enrico Marotti, all the finals he didn't meet, all of them, he won the runners-up final, the losers final, which usually means you shouldn't be in there if you're winning, because it's still hard to win the runners-up final.
Yeah, definitely. No, Enrico's super quick. Yeah, I'd say like the only difference between my event is that my mistakes, they came in the finals, and his mistakes probably came on the semis. Yeah. Whether that is mental or whether that is whatever, it's hard for me to say because I'm not in his head. But or whether that is just gear setup, I think personally that he looked. There is some certain things on the gear that can make it go faster, but it makes it more difficult to control. And in those conditions, when you have 5 to 25 knots, yeah, it's you have to kind of compromise a little bit. I did compromise a little bit to have a little bit more control versus a little bit less speed, you know. So yeah, so whether it's that or it's mental, whatever. But yeah, my event versus Enrico's, all my mistakes came in the finals. I did not have, maybe the last final was one that I didn't make like a big mistake. All the other ones I just didn't sail good, you know, or somebody took me out or whatever, you know, something happened. So,
but that's racing. That can happen. I mean, can happen in any, you know, it's not necessarily a foil or an unforced error thing. It can happen in any kind of competition.
No, but you will not see Enrico catapult 3 times leading a semifinal. You know what I mean? It might happen once or drop a jibe or whatever, you know, but you will not see him. So there is something to it that it's foil, that it's a little bit, you know, we are still like on the very, very beginning of getting the performance out of the gear. And there is different things about the performance, you know. Control gives you performance, but sometimes you also have to, you know, make the thing go fast and try to control it. And yeah, so yeah, it was fun. It was fun battling all these guys, you know. There was like a group, I would say, of let's take out Nico. Let's say he was first. So then after him, 6 guys were really, really even. And it was just about execution on the course. You know what I mean? And I'd say Pierre, out of these 6 guys, Pierre executed the best.
Yeah.
And he came out with a second place, but it was in the reach of all these guys down to Matteo in seventh.
Yeah.
So
I'll say
Pierre, William, me in fourth, fifth was Antoine, sixth Enrico, seventh Matteo. So all these 7 guys, I felt personally that
had a
were
podium
strong
shot.
enough to be on the podium, and the only difference was the execution and on the course,
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting one for me. Obviously, Hubert getting his first ever podium. We are going to talk about the women in a bit, just so you don't get. We have sort of put them in the section as well. But Hubert finishing second, and that's a massive result for him. I mean, sorry, third.
Yeah.
Pierre
And
second.
it's funny because me and Enrico, we were testing our 7.0s before the event, and William was on his 6.2 and the foil, going, I don't know, 3-4 knots slower, and we're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Come on, like, what, you're seriously going to be on your 6.2 and your foil in 25 knots of wind or 30 knots of wind? And well, guess who was laughing last? It wasn't me. Who had the last laugh?
I mean, he definitely turned up super consistent, up there. I mean, if it wasn't for Pierre ending with 2 bullets, because for me, Pierre started the competition, he was kind of unnoticed, but consistent. And then he just turned up the heat on the last couple of days, really. And that's what boosted him to that second place.
Yeah, he did what I should have kind of done. You know what I mean? Build house. And sometimes you see let's say the big 2, right? Pierre and Matteo. Let's take Antoine out of the conversation for a while because he had a totally different event. But you can see these guys, they started, these events, a lot of the times they are about rhythm. You find your starting place, you find your little routine, how you start, how you're going to jibe. You see guys taking the same lines over and over again. And you can see, like, Pierre and Matteo, nobody really started in rhythm, maybe except for Nico Guillard, And you see Pierre and Matteo were out of rhythm, out of sync. And then Pierre was the one that actually found that rhythm and found what was working for him, which sizes, which lines, which, you know what I mean? And then you gain confidence when you believe, like, when you have zero doubt that this certain sail size and certain line and where you start, etc., will work. Then your confidence goes super high, and you can just focus on executing, to perfection. So big, like congrats to Pierre, because he kind of found something that was probably not there in the beginning.
Yeah, I definitely felt like Matteo. I watched him in a few races and he ended up gambling for the fin on the last day. It obviously didn't pay off, but I felt in other couple of races he took the foil and he saw other people at the front, like, let's say, Ingmar and Marco a few times. And I think he would have looked at that when they were qualifying, and he didn't at those times, and thought, man, if I'd have been on the fin, I was through. And then when he did, and it kind of just was out of sync. That's how it seemed.
Yeah, exactly.
Although he finished 7th, I think, in the end, it was not far off being a podium, like you say. Same with Enrico, same with, Albeau was the surprise for me. I really didn't, even without the DND, I didn't have him as 5th in my head. He would, I don't know. He obviously was there because he finished 5th.
Yeah, Antoine was the opposite of me, because when he made the final, he would actually have a good one. Like, he had a bunch of thirds and I think a second and whatever. So yeah, obviously he knows how to win, the guy. And once things were working, once he wasn't crashing or wasn't out of sync with his gear, then he was delivering the results. So so it's interesting. It's an interesting study for me as a fan of the sport. Obviously I didn't watch all the races, but you watch, like what's going on in your heats and like the semis and stuff, you watch from the beach. So it was interesting, that big 3, how they how they actually got on in this new environment, let's say, you know, because every one of them got challenged pretty hard, and the response was very different in all cases, you know. So yeah, and I was surprised Matteo gambled for the fin. I was on that heat actually.
Yeah.
I was on that heat, and I saw him gamble for the fin, and I'm like, fuck, you know. And the kind of double, I had my caddy, Ben van der Steen was kind enough to bring my 7/8 and my medium out, and I was like, fuck, you know, kind of double questioning myself, you know. But then I was like, no, come on, nobody else is changing, and the inside looks light, and you have to make that call in you know, in seconds. So he changed, like, you can only change until the yellow goes up, until the yellow flag goes up, so that's 2 minutes before the start. And he changed, like, I don't know, 2 minutes 20 before the start or something, you know.
Okay. Well, interesting. I mean, it definitely interesting. The scene is definitely set for an interesting year. Obviously, a comment there. Sorry, what's the difference between Nico's foil? Nico's foil is a lot smaller. The front wing on the foil is, well, Maciek can probably tell you. He's got 430, I think, area.
Yeah, 430 main wing, 430 front wing, the high wind one that he used all the finals. So that's in area, square centimeters, and then his back wing is 200 square cm. Whereas like most of the guys, their smallest would be a 550. Or even like the starboard guys, they even had a 650 as their smallest. So yeah, so
Okay.
a lot less, or a lot more efficient in the gusts, you know.
Yeah. And as I said already, those guys are stuck with those. But when you look at the equipment, you look at Nico's, he hasn't really got a big wing, is he? Is he going to be struggling if he gets super light?
Well, let's see. He's an amazing sailor, but let's see about that, because in silt it can get really iffy. You know, with the offshore, can be like 12 knots in the gusts, but like 6 in the lows. And like I saw him like on the last final, he struggled with the 430 and the 6.0. Like on the last reach, he just couldn't go. Like it was second last reach. Sorry, he came back. It was windy, but then the wind dropped, and I was like, yeah. So it's he's fucking good. He'll make it work, but I wouldn't have the balls. I don't know what's his biggest. He registered a 430, a 550, and I would guess something around the 700, which is not that small. So he'll be okay, but yeah, you know, you have to make that decision at the beginning of the year, not really knowing what the standards are going to be, when are we going to race, etc. You know, like today in Croatia we were foiling, but I don't know if we would have raced, because it was almost impossible to jibe and on the foil. You know what I mean? It was super light. So then if we race in that, I need bigger gear. I need you know, a 900 wing and a 115 fuselage, and my biggest is a 700 and a 110. So that's all really, really tricky, you know. And people, when they say like, why didn't you register a smaller wing, have to remember that we can only register 3, which actually was 2 last year. We didn't have a tour, but last year was supposed to be 2 wings. So that would be even trickier. And yeah.
So, question there from Andrew Inkpen. If I remember rightly, he won the Simmer Sail competition. They are real people who win these prizes on Windsurfing.TV. That's for sure. What do you think of that question about specialization between fin and foil? Is it that different? Do you find big differences, or is it just add a bit of variety to the training? And I don't know.
I have this idea that back when windsurfing was huge, Bjorn was the best. There was one world champion, right? Overall world champion, and he was winning or getting top 3 in all the disciplines, and somehow it was possible, and we got more specialized, and if you look at freestyle now, it's so hard for them to get events, to get coverage, to get anything, just because it's mega specialized. And this is natural, of course, a natural process, but I would try to keep it as simple and as kind of one way, how you say, like one street, one avenue, one mainstream, let's say, one stream, as much as possible. So I don't want to, I don't think separating. I think if you're a good sailor, you're going to figure it out, and the rules are the same for everyone. So why do we have to like freak out that a foiler won one event? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, in Fuerte, he came. Nico came with a full set of slalom gear, fin slalom, and he was actually training on it before the event. You know, so if we go to Fuerte, or if Israel gets windier, then he has to get on the fin, and you know, and probably it will even out somewhat. You know, so yeah, I think we just have to. He showed us where the foil can be, and we just have to step up now and you know, get up there with the
language. My mom could be watching this.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. But the interesting bit is, for people who don't know Nico Goya, because you know most people know him for a foiler, he can sail a slalom board in wind really well. I remember seeing him at Defi get some good results in the real strong stuff. You know, he's not the biggest, so he probably struggles, which doesn't make sense for people who don't do much slalom. But the smaller guys struggle in the lighter winds. So actually, the foiling is playing into his hands pretty nicely. I mean, he's not tiny, is he? He's still still bigger than me.
Yeah, he's still like 86 kilo, 85, 86. So he's not the smallest, and you know, he's not short or anything. So yeah, you know, but we keep talking about kind of one outlier, one kind of.
Okay, looks like we've lost Maciek Rutkowski. Timmy says, do caddies influence competitions? I wonder. I'd hate to think it was a popularity contest. I tell you what, a caddy does make a big difference. I saw that from the commentary booth. If you had a caddy out there, you know, with your spare set of gear, maybe one on the foil, one on the fin, it does make a big difference. There's no doubt about that. I think it's actually quite an interesting point, because I've seen Finian Maynard pay John Sky before at Fuerteventura as a caddy, and it made a difference. It really does. You know, you're out to sea. We saw Antoine Albeau couldn't get out to the start in time. If you've got your caddy out there, or the wind picks up and you can change to the fin quickly, it definitely would make a difference. You got any comments on caddies, Maciek?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was on. Yes, it is a bit of a popularity contest. If you don't have any friends, you're not going to have any caddies, especially an event like Israel, that we were not allowed to bring any people because it was a bubble, a COVID. You know, we were not allowed to bring girlfriends, not allowed to bring, anybody. So then the only person that could caddy you was one of your actual competitors, you know. And usually you just ask a teammate or ask somebody that's out of the elimination already. And the gentleman rule, let's say, says that when somebody asks you, you do it. In silt, I would definitely ask a percentage of prize money. But in a place like Israel, I mean, I'm still gonna share my prize money with my caddy, but it's not as bad when you're in board shorts and you know, warm water. And
who was your caddy?
Ben van der Steen. He had a bit of a shocker of an event, arrived super late, and you know, he just couldn't get any rhythm. And I asked him like the second day, and then he just kept doing it if he was out and I needed it.
Question: we're going to move on to the women. Obviously, two separate categories. We did see a few breakout riders. One of them, Sarah Jackson from the UK. I was actually just trying to pull up her winning slalom race. It won't upload for some reason.
Nice insight.
But I mean, it was interesting to see, you know, for me anyway, everyone on the fin. I do like normal fin slalom, I have to say. There's something about it. It looks faster because there's a bit of spray coming off. Everyone's maybe a little bit tighter. when it's windy and the drones, it looks really good, I have to say.
Yeah, I think we should talk about. I think we should talk about like connecting and not connecting for girls as well.
Yeah.
Which the one thing that strikes me when I see this that crash you showed with Sarakita and oh shit, I forgot the name. I'm sorry, of the Severn rider that fell. Is that
Albeau.
probably if they had a free choice, a free gear choice, they would be on fins. You know what I mean? It was so windy that heat.
Yeah.
That it just forced them. So it's like a two-way sword, a two-way street. That when it's nice to kind of protect the best fin girls and have some foil girls, but at the same time sometimes you're gonna get forced in an uncomfortable situation because the judges actually tell you what you have to race on, But yeah, back to the you changed the topic. Fuck, you're getting good at this, Benny.
I'm struggling. I got to be honest. I'm not very good at multitasking. I struggle to listen and do all this, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah, we'll be better next time. Hopefully, I'll be on some decent internet next time. But yeah, so yeah. So the reason why they didn't connect is that at the time when we changed the rules, so like at the end of 2019, not many girls were foiling. So they were thinking like, okay, we don't want to force. And obviously the issue with money is there also, buying all the foils and how many women can actually afford it, etc., how many women are actually professional, how many men are actually professional is a good question as well. But yeah, so that doesn't go very deep, so they didn't want to force it, let's say. And it worked out well because the foil fleet was actually bigger in Israel because there is a bunch of IQ foil girls. The IQ foil girls, they can come with their IQ foil board. It's allowed for, because normally it would be over the limit because it's a 95 cm wide. But
so what is the limit? Sorry, I did actually see a question about that
91.
as well.
The
91.
PWA foil board limit is 91 and slalom board limit is 85 centimeters wide.
Okay.
So yeah. So Christian Opedal, which I don't know if that's Helle's dad or is it a brother or whatever. Let's ask him to reveal who he is. He says women and men should be equal. Well, they are equal now in terms of prize money, which is great. I think that the girls they really fought for this for a long time, So it is, and whether it should be mixed or not, yeah, it's very hard to say, right? Because if those IQ foil girls don't come, the fleet is smaller because they will be scared to go on foils against the fin girls, which they shouldn't be. I think all girls should come and just race on what they have. But yeah, what do you think from a commentator standpoint? It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Fin race, foil race, this, that.
Well, I personally don't think it's confusing. I think it takes longer to run it all, which is a point, within it all. And if you want equal prize money and you want equal everything, in theory, it should be equal. So, foil fin. The only thing I'd be scared about is it gonna scare a few people off that, like you say, the IQ foil girls, they don't maybe do any slalom, so they would have to borrow slalom equipment, and they think, oh well. And then the other way around, the slalom people might be not into the foil, but I think that will change over time. And the problem is, if you don't integrate it, it might not happen as fast. If it's like anything, if you just do it, it will happen. And people will adapt to whatever you do, which is why I'm a big believer in the dictatorship way of doing things sometimes, rather than this whole, especially in the PWA style, where you ask everyone for their opinion. Everyone gives their opinion, which suits them at the time. So if you ask the best foil guy, what should we do? He's going to vote for foil because he's winning the foil. If you ask for the fin guy, he's going to, and not everyone's that forward thinking. And I think a lot of the top sports in the world have this almost dictatorship leadership, which is a visionary for the future, and they go, right, we're going to do this, and everyone else toes the line. In windsurfing, it's like, God, we ask everybody 5 times and everyone votes for whatever, we keep the same course every event. We do lots of things the same. And that's due to all the riders voting because they don't want to change things too much. Maybe it's changing now with the younger guys coming through, maybe. But I do feel the top 10 riders have a lot of influence. So when they're going for something, that's what will happen. So if those guys are not forward thinking, it does hold the sport back, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think with the foil, everybody just realized there was a lot of pushback, but everybody finally just realized it's coming, and we need to integrate it the best we can. Otherwise, we're just going to look like a joke with not using it, So I think it worked out really well. And I think for the girls down the line, it's going to connect as well. I don't know what their vision is, how early, how late, but yeah, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, for me, it's interesting. I don't think we're going to carry on this too much long. We've been on quite a while now, actually, an hour and a quarter. I don't know how that went pretty quickly. Like I said, if for anyone just tuning in, I'm just trying to start up the live thing. This was literally thrown together pretty quickly, as you can see, but just to get a feel for how it works. And we're going to do different topics, maybe some coaching stuff as well. And this style of show where, like I say, we'll be a bit more organized. We'll get the videos in. Maybe I can get someone else directing it without me having to look for the videos and then they're not uploading. I think it could be a good way to sort of debrief an event and get the inside knowledge, which we don't always get at the competition. Like, Maciek's deep in competition and you want to hear his insights and we don't get to hear it. Not just Maciek, other riders. Is really easy to bring them in. Obviously it's going to be a niche audience. It's not going to be for the whole Windsurfing.TV audience. I know that, but I think windsurfing is about little niches and covering all those things. So if you like it, give us a thumbs up, leave us some comments and stuff. It will be on YouTube. I'm going to leave it there for other people who are just tuning in. Again, this was just an experiment. And for me, just, turning up to Israel, not really following so much the training over the 18 months since the last competition. I saw a few things and we were going to talk about all these, but we've already been going an hour and a quarter. But Delphine Cousin-Kestel, I left that competition going, she's not on a game. And then I just looked through the results here. They're amazing. Results, third, second. How do you end up third with those results? It's crazy. So, maybe because she wasn't so many times, well, she didn't actually win one race. Maybe that is why. We used to seeing Delphine. She was always challenging Sarah Keita, but Sarah Keita looks like she is tuned. I heard a lot of stuff about her being in Aruba over the winter and maybe training with the guys more slalom than she would have usually, but she looked in good form. And then Marion Mortefon, right up there in both disciplines. If it had been a joint discipline, I think we would have seen Marion Mortefon take the title without working it out, a second and a first. I don't think you can do it that way. We probably need to do all the individual races. But then who would have chose what in which race? So there's definitely some interest in the girl discipline. Sarah Jackson as well from the UK. I've got to mention her, won her first race. And I think Maciek will definitely concur with this, I'm sure. Once you win your first race, Enrico Marotti as well, it's like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, it's like I've done it, so now I know how to do it. Like everything seems so much easier once you've actually managed to do it, So
yeah.
So for Sarah, that was great, and you had almost Tuesday Lou almost winning as well. It was great. It was fun to actually watch the girls. You mentioned Delphine, again, another person that looked sort of out of rhythm a little bit. Some good starts, some bad starts, some good jibes, some not the best jibes. So kind of, you know, like not what we're used to seeing from Delphine, being like bang, 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 you know.
Yeah.
And
we're
the
being
one-
harsh. Let's be honest. Like we're not saying, oh, she was terrible, she looked rubbish. Not at all. But just lacked that cutting edge that we're used to seeing from her, because she has just put down massive high expectations, but you know, from past performances.
Exactly, you know, it's like in the men, everybody's giving me props for fourth and asking what the hell happened to Antoine in fifth. That was 2 points behind me. We basically had a very similar event. It's just the expectation, right? A multiple world champion, you judge by a different standard, whether you want it or not, like whether you do it consciously or subconsciously. You just and with Delphine, it's like that, you know. We're used to seeing her winning so much, you know, that when she comes third is like kind of what happened, you know. And sometimes also the way the discards are, and that plays sort of against you. If you're super consistent but you're not peaking too high, 7 eliminations is pretty bad for you, because you count 5 out of 7 only, you know what I mean. If you're on 10, you're counting 8 out of 10. So it's kind of, then the consistency pays off a little bit more, you know. Or if you're on 6, you're counting 5 out of 6. So
what's your take on that? Because I definitely have a strong feeling. I always say it in the commentary. For me, 2 discards at 7 is just a joke. For me, it should be 2 at 9. This is just my personal opinion. How can you have 2 races out of 7 to throw out? I come from Olympic background. I'm pretty sure it's 2 after 9. I could be wrong. Maybe I am wrong, but that seems too many. You know, and it doesn't make sense. Like I'm into maths. You know, you get 1 after 4. Hear me out here. You get 1 after 4. You get 2 after 7, and you get 3 after 12.
Should be 8, shouldn't it?
It should be 8, shouldn't it? At least it should be 8. I mean, I did reasonably okay at maths, but it should be 8 if the pattern is there. If little Johnny has to guess the pattern and 7 was missing, he would have gone with 8. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we're at. Just for anyone who doesn't know, what is the World Tour looking like? You know, what events could we possibly have? Obviously, nothing is guaranteed in these days, nothing at all. But what is on the board? What is on the calendar?
Well, we got, for now, what is looking very likely is Korea in beginning of September, and then Silt at the end of September. And then this event, which I'm at right now, Croatia, which is a 2-star event, which counts for less points and it's less prize money, etc. But it's going to be pretty well. There's going to be a good bunch of competitors, both on the men and women side. So it looks like from now on 3 events, not the dream tour, but something to build up on a very crappy 2020, and hopefully in 2022 we have that full calendar that we had at the beginning of the year, which was totally amazing. It was like 9 events, good locations, good mix of fin, foil, etc. You know, because now it's looking like, you know, in Silt, when it's properly windy, you'll probably go freestyle or waves, right?
Yeah.
And then if it's, you know, so we go in light wind, so that's probably foil. And then Korea is gusty. Korea can be amazing. Like in 2019, the last day was pretty sick, like 7-7 full power. But it can be pretty iffy as well. So let's see. Looks like a foil game this year, but yeah, you know, you never know. And foil game in 5 to 25 is different than foil game in 8 to 12 and 2 meter swell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would not assume that the ranking we have now is a final one, let's say.
No, like I said, Korea and Silt, if I had to pick of 2 events, which could be anything and pretty crazy conditions. I mean, Korea, if the wind comes from the other direction, Oh my life. And so, you know, like you say, it's probably going to be light wind, but it could be swell. But in fact, that I probably doubt it. And probably offshore easterly, freezing cold. Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But I think that is going to do us for the first ever after show live. Was it a success? I don't know. We've done it though. We started the ball rolling. That's just how it is. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was, like I said, I didn't know what was going to happen, but we've just done it just to see, get the format out there. I think we're going to be doing more live streams. That is for sure. Bringing more riders in to discuss. If you have any ideas that what what you'd like to see live, because it is a definite format that suits certain things better than others, and that is definitely, I think it suits question and answers, I think, really well if you've got the right people in the show. So definitely name who you want to see on here for the question and answer type stuff and what sort of subjects you'd like to cover. Put all that in the comments because I'll go through and do some brainstorming with a few people. Thanks again for tuning in. Massive thanks to Maciek. Glad you sorted that internet out. I was looking a bit worrying at one point.
And if you don't want to see me ever again, let me know. I'll take my free evenings.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
No.
Well, I should end this show by saying good luck, Maciek. Croatia starts Friday?
Friday, yes.
Friday. How's the forecast looking?
It's looking like some 9-meter foiling, I think. So a little bit of a different, foiling, but it's very even, the place.
Okay.
So it's like if last year it was a good mix of 8.4 big board and 9-meter foiling. So this year I don't know exactly, but it looks like there's going to be 4 out of 6 days should be windy.
Yeah.
So I think we should get some good action, and there's like 5 top 10 guys coming and some other good guys. So yeah, should be a really good event. Too bad we have no live stream, but I think there's going to be some live updates and all the finals from the drone and things like that. So yeah,
I did actually get offered by Mr. Norstick. He said we could just drone all the finals, send them to you, and you could commentate them, and we could just release them as live. I thought maybe we could do a few of them. If well, we'll see. We'll see how the week goes, but maybe it might be interesting to do it as live. Let's say just to get a bit of energy into it. And they're good boys over in Croatia.
I want to throw one thing more. Out there that we've been prepping super hard. Then the internet is super shit. So sorry for this, but I've never seen Ben Proffitt so stressed in my entire life.
That's not true. You don't know how stressed I get. I was just anxious the internet wouldn't be good. And I hate doing live because it's a really awkward show like it was at the beginning. You wouldn't know because you weren't here. It's like a awkwardness of like, oh God, you have everything planned and I know it. And then the internet's rubbish and it's just the worst thing ever. So that's kind of why I was a little bit Portuguese internet, Croatian internet. It's not the best, is it? Let's face it. Well, not where we are anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we got there in the end. So yeah, good luck, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having me, and thank you everybody for tuning in and posting questions and etc. We try to do better next time.
Is this going to be like one of those phone calls when you go, you hang up? No, you hang up. Bye. See ya. Hi.
Yeah. So sorry, I have no time to talk to you, but you're the one calling me.
All right, we're laters. See you later, man. Cheers.
You're the admin, man.